into analysis. So we will talk today about the following topics. We will talk about the superposition principles, and we will talk a little about the corrections for the gas reservoirs and the conventional type curves and the FMB concept. So let's start with the superposition. Okay, so as you know, the theories of well testing and rate transient analysis are based mainly on the constant rate solutions or constant pressure solution. So either you are producing with your well with a constant rate, or you are producing it with a constant pressure. So let's say we are producing our well in a constant rate. So in reality, this rarely happening. So the well is not producing with a constant rate. So what is the solution if we have variable rate, like I'm saying that we have in reality? Here comes the superposition. Okay, so the superposition time, it is required to analyze the variable rate systems, which you find in reality actually. So it is hard in reality to find constant rate producing well. What it does, it converts the multiple rate history into equivalent single rate history, okay, by replotting the data point as a function of their superposed time, not the time, the regular time that we know. So the formula of the superposition time depends on the flow regime. So here is an example of a two-rate history. So you started your well production by Q1, okay, then you raised your rate to Q2 at the time of T1. So, and here on the axis you find also the BWF is plotted, okay, with your rate, and the x-axis is your time. So from the time 0 to time T1, this the production that we see, or the drop in the pressure, is the effect of your rate, first rate, which is Q1. Okay, but starting from time T1 forward, this drop here, the drop in the pressure, is combined, is due to two rated histories: Q1 from time 0 to T1, and Q2 from time T1 to forward. So if we write the equation, so PI, which is the P initial of your reservoir, minus PWF, it will equal Q1 multiplied by a function of T plus Q2 minus Q1 multiplied by a function of T minus T1. This function here is a superposition time. Okay, so each flow regime has its formula of superposition time. Okay, so we have the radial flow, boundary dominant flow, for example. Each one of them has its formula for the superposition time. Like here for the radial flow, this is the equation of the superposition time, which is Tn here, and in the boundary dominated flow, it will equal the cumulative phase production over the rate, which is a material balance time actually. So the material balance time, who made this in the industry or introduced it in the industry? It was Blasingame. So Blasingame and his team introduced the concept of the material balance time, okay, which is a superposition time, in fact. Okay, so as you see here in the left plot, we have our well produced at variable rate. So as the rate is in the y-axis, the time in the x-axis, which is the actual time. So as you see, our Q, which our rate, changes with time. So we have a rate decline. this actual decline. What the material balance time is doing is that it makes an analogy for this behavior, but with a constant rate. So the left plot, our rate is changing, but the right plot, our rate is constant. So this is an equivalent constant rate case to our case, okay? And this is the formula, as I said, for the material balance time. So what is the benefit of the material balance time? Actually, the benefit is that it, as we said, it make it possible for me to analyze variable rate systems as if it were constant rate systems. And as I said in the beginning, the Blazingame based his type curves, for example, on the constant rate solution. So he and his team reached the definition of the material balance time to analyze the variable rate systems, okay? Because their solution was a constant rate one, actually, okay? So as you see here, so if we use the constant, if we use the material balance time, it transfers the constant pressure solution, which is a variable rate case, because if you are changing your rate, okay, it is best to guess that your bottom hole furrow pressure is constant, okay? In this case, your rate is changing, but your pressure BWF, the bottom hole furrow pressure, is constant. So this is a constant pressure solution. If you use the material balance time instead of the regular time or the actual time, you can say that you change the constant pressure solution into the constant rate solution, okay? Because this is how the material balance time, or this is actually the function of the material balance time to convert the constant pressure solution or the variable rate solution or the variable rate case, sorry, to the constant rate solution, okay? Which is a harmonic curve, by the way, on Blazingame type curves, as we will see in a minute. Second, we will talk about now the corrections for the gas reservoirs. Guys, we are talking in the domain of the rate transient analysis. So when we talk about corrections for the gas reservoirs, we mean what corrections are made to the equations or used in the rate transient analysis in the case of a gas reservoir, okay? Because all the equations in the rate transient analysis firstly were done based on an oil reservoir, oil producer, not a gas producer, okay? And then with time, of course, people in the industry wanted to generalize the solutions made for the oil reservoirs or the oil producers to the gas reservoirs. I have a oil producing gas, so I want to apply the equations used for oil reservoir. You can't by their own, but we may there were corrections you have to do to use the equations that originally developed for our oil reservoirs to your before you can use them for your gas reservoir. So let's see what are these corrections. At first, we have in the case of gas reservoirs, we have pressure dependent fluid properties, and this is very important in the gas reservoirs, okay? Because here your flow properties like the viscosity, like the compressibility of the gas are changing with your pressure or your reservoir pressure. So significantly, you have a significant change. Of course, in the case of oil reservoirs, they are also changing the oil viscosity and the oil compressibility with pressure, but these changes are small in the case of in oil reservoir. But in the gas reservoir, the change are significant. So we use what we call pseudo pressure and pseudo time in the case of gas reservoirs instead of the regular pressure or regular times that we use in the case of an oil reservoir. So let's see how this is implemented in the equations for a gas reservoir. So as I said, the gas properties vary with pressure, like the formation volume factors, the compressibility, the viscosity of a gas. All these flow properties are changing with pressure significantly in the case of a gas reservoir. Okay, so if we take this equation developed for an oil reservoir, as you see that the PI minus PWF, it will equal what we call the depletion term, which is NP divided by CTN. N is the original oil in place, guys. Okay, and the NB is cumulative oil production, and CT is the total compressor rate. And plus the reservoir, what we call the reservoir flow term, which, as you see, it's mainly like developed from that Darcy equation. So blah 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 BO, the formation volume factor, mu over KH ln RE over RW minus 3 divided by 4. So as you see, that the depletion term, it depends on the compressibility, okay, and the reservoir flow term, it depends on the formation volume factor B and the mu, okay, and this equation is a very important equation that we use in RTA, okay. As you see, this one was developed for an oil reservoir, okay. So when we will talk now about the Darcy law correction for the gas reservoir, okay, we said that the gas viscosity and the Z factor, the Z factor is, as you know, is a correction for a real gas, okay. Factor vary with pressure, so the solution in this case is the pseudo pressure, okay. So in the case of gas, guys, we don't use the pressure, we use the pseudo pressure, okay, or the gas potential, okay. So as you see here, Darcy law in the radial flow, this is the equation of Darcy law. It's Q, it is equal this term, this is the area multiplied by the permeability over the viscosity, and this is the pressure gradient, the delta B or dB by dr, because the flow is radially, R because the flow is R is the radius. So this is Darcy law in a radial form. If you combine this equation with the real gas equation of state, okay, which is here Q multiplied by pressure over ZRT, it will equal the Q and B. Okay, this term here, it is at standard condition, and this term here is at the reservoir condition, okay. So this QGR at the reservoir, R for the reservoir, okay. So if you combine these together, you will get at this equation, okay, because you will replace QGR by all these terms, okay, here, as you see, and then when you integrate to get rid of this term dB over dr, as you see here, the integration, you will reach at this equation. And this one, this box is the pseudo pressure or the real gas potential. Some you will find in the literature, some is calling it M of P, others calling it P sub P, as you see here. But in any case, it equals the integration of 2B over mu Z from BWF to your P, okay, from or your P base, whatever here, the base pressure, and from 0 actually to your pressure. Here, because we integrate, the integration limits are from the BWF to the B reservoir, but the pseudo pressure is actually integration from 0 to your pressure, okay. So this was the correction for the reservoir flow term. So the reservoir flow term for a gas reservoir, we corrected it using what? The pseudo pressure, okay. So what about the depletion term? We correct the depletion term as follows. As we know or say, the gas properties, the viscosity and the compressibility change with the pressure. As you see here in the plot, here is the gas compressibility on the y-axis, on the x-axis is the pressure. So as you see that the compressibility changes with pressure significantly, okay. It decreases actually, or sorry, it increases as the pressure decreases. So the relation is inverse between them, okay. Here now, this is the gas viscosity. As you see, as the pressure increase, the gas viscosity increase. Okay, significant. We have a significant change, guys. So what is the solution here? The solution here in the depletion term is to use the pseudo time, not the time. So the pseudo time, who developed the pseudo time? Agarwal developed the pseudo time. Okay, Agarwal introduced this pseudo time into the industry actually. So this is the equation of pseudo time here. So the TA equals mu g at the initial reservoir pressure multiplied by the integration of 1 over mu Cg from 0 to T. But this in the integration, mu and Cg are evaluated at the average reservoir pressure. So actually, guys, Agarwal introduced this equation, okay, but with no analytical base. So he reached this equation by like empirically, or he used many cases, solved many cases, simulate many cases, and he saw that mathematically this equation is the best one, that solves the problem of the gas reservoir in the matter of time. So he reaches that this equation is the best for the pseudo time. Okay, actually the pseudo time is eliminating the effect of the viscosity and the compressibility change of the gas with your pressure. Okay, like the pseudo pressure is doing. Yeah, pseudo pressure also is eliminating the, if we go back, the pseudo pressure here, is eliminating the effect of the viscosity and the factor change with pressure. Okay, but in the terms of the pressure. So the pseudo time like is pseudo, it is like the pseudo pressure. Okay, so in the case of gas reservoirs, we use the pseudo pressure and pseudo time. Okay, in the equations instead of the regular pressure and the regular time or the actual time. Now we will okay, so the last thing here is the material balance pseudo time. You remember when we talked about the material balance time developed by Blasingame? He developed it first for an oil reservoir. Okay, an oil reservoir, not a gas reservoir. So when Agarwal introduced the pseudo time concept, Blasingame and other guys went back and they developed the material balance pseudo time for a gas reservoir now. Okay, so they applied their concept of the material balance time for an oil reservoir, used Agarwal correction and pseudo time, and reached this pseudo time here. The material balance, this is the material balance pseudo time in the case of a gas reservoir. Okay, so as you see this is the equations mu Ct at initial reservoir pressure multiplied by your rate and multiplied by this integration term. Okay. Okay. Now we will talk about the conventional type curves. So what is the type curve, guys? What is it? This is a dimensionless model for your reservoir and well system combined. Okay, it is a log plot. It is a valuable tool for the interpretation of your production and the pressure data, and it allows the multiple different operating conditions to all show on the same plot. Okay, so maybe we have different operating conditions like producing with a variable rate or producing with a constant rate. Okay, so all of these conditions can be plotted on the same plot or the same type curve. So for example, this is an example here in this slide for the dimensionless variables that are used in the case of a radial flow on the type curves. So as you see, the dimensionless rate, it equals the rate multiplied by b mu over delta b kh in the case of a radial flow. And the dimensionless time, it's a function of time multiplied by k over phi, your porosity, mu, c, compressibility, r double square. Okay, so this is a dimensionless rate and this is a dimensionless time. So this is an example here that will show, I hope it will show you the benefit of the type curve. So we have two wells, two gas wells actually. Well one is producing or started producing with an initial rate of 2.5 double M SCF per day, okay, and the decline rate, the initial decline rate was 10% per year, okay. So this well one. Well two started with a gas rate of 10 SCF per day, and the initial decline rate was 20% per year, okay. So on this here, on this plot, this is a raw data plot. If we try to figure out or show the rate with time for both wells, so well one here started with a low rate in comparison with the rate two, which is the blue one here. It started with 2.5, and its rate decreased with time. Here the x-axis in years, okay. And his well two started with high rate 10, and the rate declined with time also. So here, as you see, this is a Cartesian plot on the x and y axis. Okay, we can say in the dimensionless form, the dimensionless decline rate, it will equal the rate over the initial rate 2.5, and the dimensionless decline. This is a dd actually, guys. So d capital is dimensionless, d small is decline. So the dimensionless decline time, it will equal the initial decline rate is 0.1. 10% is 0.1 multiplied by the time. Okay, so let's assume for now that these are the definitions of the dimensionless decline rate and the dimensionless decline time. So like for well one, it will, for well two, it will equal q over 10, which is the initial rate, and it will equal here, the TDD will equal 0.2, which is the initial decline rate multiplied by time. So if we try to replot this, the rate versus time for both wells, but in the actually by using the QDD and the TDD, okay, on the log plot, as you see here, if we try to plot the two wells production data in terms of these factors, the QDD against the TDD, they will both overlay each other. As you see here, the blue points will one overlay the like it may be purple points, it's well two. So well one and well two points overlap each other, and this is the main advantage of the type curves, guys, that we can, as we said, draw multiple operating conditions on one plot. Okay, now we'll take a glance of the Vitkovich type curve. So as you know, ARBS developed the three decline curve models: the exponential one, the hyperbolic one, and the harmonic one. So as you see here, we have the rate against the time. The exponential one would have the highest decline rate. The hyperbolic one, the harmonic ARBS decline rate, it would have the smallest decline rate, and the hyperbolic is some thing in between them. Okay, if you plot the Q over time on the log scale, here you will have the three ARBS decline models: the harmonic, the exponential is the red one, guys, the harmonic is the gray, and the black is the hyperbolic. Okay, so Vitkovich type curves are you see here, these are Vitkovich type curve. So you have the first part. This part is a transition. So in the transient. So here you are in the transient production period, which means that you didn't reach the boundary of your reservoir yet. You didn't. Okay, but starting from this point here forward, these stems, you are in the boundary dominated flow period, which means that you already reached all the boundaries of your reservoir. Okay, so here these stems are for different RED, which is RE over RW. So this RE is the drainage radius, guys, and the RW, as you know, is, or the RWA. RWA is apparent well radius. It is a function of the well radius and the skin factor. Okay, so all of these stems are for different RED. Okay, so you can plot your production data. Here the rate is on the y-axis, guys, and the time on the x-axis. As you see, it's the log plot. As we said, all the type curves are log plots. So you can plot your data here and make an interpretation and reach to calculate your permeability, okay, your skin factor, and your drainage radius, which is fantastic. Okay, but the limitation in the Vitkovich type curve is that they were based on the constant pressure solution. Okay, so they can only be used in this case. So if you have a constant bottom morpholong pressure, you have your producer is producing by a constant bottom hole flowing pressure. You can use Vitkovich, otherwise you can't. Okay, so then came Blasingame. Okay, Blasingame and his team based their type curves on a constant rate solution. Okay? The data here can be plotted using the normalized rate and the material balance time functions. We talked about the material balance time function in this webinar from a little while. Okay, two more functions may be plotted, like the normalized rate integral and the normalized rate integral derivative functions. The type curves of Blasingame can be used to calculate the permeability, the skin, the reservoir drainage radius, your well, the drainage radius in the reservoir of interest, or from the reservoir of interest, which is RE, and the original oil in place or original gas in place. So this is significant, guys. When you make RTA for your well and you can reach to all these parameters, this is a significant, okay, information. As you see here, you will plot your data. Okay, you will plot your normalized rate as a function of the material balance time. Okay, and make type curve matching on the type curves and see which where your data best match a curve from these curves. Okay, so you make a type curve matching. You plot your data on the type curve and move it till you find that this is a good match between your data and one of the type curves, and at this point you stop and you use your matching parameters to calculate all what we said here: the permeability, the skin, the reservoir radius, and the in-place volumes. Okay. Then came Agarwal and Gardner, and they made type curves of their own after Blasingame. Also, they based their type curves on a constant rate solution like Blasingame did. But here you will plot the normalized pressure integral function instead of the normalized rate function. Okay, and you will get all the outputs like Blasingame, the permeability, skin, RE, and the in place. Okay, and this is as you see here, this is Agarwal-Gardner type curve. In the y-axis, you have your normalized rate, and The x-axis you have the material balance pseudo time, and you make the type curve matching like blazing game and get your output. Okay. Also, there are type curves called the normalized pressure integral, which is abbreviated as NPI type curves. They plot the normalized pressure instead of the normalized rate, and you can reach the same output like blazing game and agrawal gardener. So here, this type curve is the NPI type curve. In the y-axis, you have the normalized pressure, okay, and the x-axis you have the material balance time of all the material balance pseudo time in the case of gas reservoir. Okay, you make the type curve matching and reach the outputs. Okay, so we can use all these type curves to make rate transient analysis of our well, of our producer, either it is an oil producer or a gas producer. Okay, using the steps that each type curve producer like for example blazing game write steps that you can follow to make rate transient analysis of your well using its type curve. Okay, each one of them did this. Agrawal did this, and MBI type curve inventors did this, but also, okay, to reach the output. Okay. Lastly, we will talk about the FMB concept. So the FMB means the flowing material balance. So FMB is an abbreviation for the flowing material balance. Okay. So here in the case of an oil reservoir, okay, let's say that your well is an oil well producing with a variable rate, okay. So if we look at the pseudo steady state inflow equation for an oil reservoir, okay, or oil producer here. So in the case of a constant rate, we have BI, which is the initial reservoir pressure, minus BWF, which is your bottom hole flowing pressure. It will equal M, what we call M, PSS. PSS is an abbreviation for the pseudo steady state, guys. Okay, multiplied by NP, which is a cumulative oil production, plus Q, your rate, multiplied by BPSS. What MPSS equal? It equal 1 over CTN, and the N is the original oil in place, okay, and the CT is the total compressibility, and PSS it equal mu L if you talk about linear flow, divided by K, the permeability, and multiplied, which is multiplied by the area, which is the cross-sectional area of talking about like a linear flow or cylindrical flow. Okay, in the case of the RC. So if you divide, and by the way, the PSS is the inverse of the productivity index, okay, of your well. So if we divide both sides by Q, by your rate, and the plot, if we divide the both sides of this equation by Q, what we will get? We will get this plot here. So let's talk about the equation first. So we have here PI minus BWF over Q. It will equal M of PSS multiplied by NB over Q plus PSS. If you take this term here and plot it on the y-axis, okay, and you take this term here, which is NB over Q, and plot it on the x-axis. On the y-axis, we have BI minus BWF over Q, and on the x-axis, we have NB divided by Q. you plot your points, your production data, you will see that you have plus or minus a straight line. You can fit through these points, okay? And the slope in this case will be m of PSS, it will equal Pm of PSS, and the intercept with the y-axis it will equal PSS. So from this slope you can calculate your N, which is the original oil in place, because we said that M of PSS it equals 1 over CTN. So if I have the value of this M and know the CT value, so now I can calculate N, which is the original oil in place associated with your producer, okay? Associated with your producer, oil producer, okay? So you can say that this N is the original oil in place in your in the drainage area of your oil producer, okay? And also from the plot we get what? We get the PSS, and PSS it equals what? It equals the inverse of the productivity index. So now you can calculate your productivity index, and the productivity index concept is very important in your producer, either it is an oil or a gas producer. So because it is used in many other applications as your well is alive. So for example, you can use it to determine the completion size, the tubing size that you run in your well. If we say that our well is producing naturally, actually, and if even your well is producing like a pump, using a pump ECB or PCB or sucker, you need this value. So this value is very critical, the productivity index, in the design of any artificial lift method that you use to produce your well, any method. So so as you see here, the flowing material balance concept is very important, but to apply it you need to have the inputs. You need to have the initial reservoir pressure value, okay, measured in your well at the start of your just before your production. You need to have the bottom hole flowing pressure data of your well, your producer. You need also to have the rates, the oil rate with time. You need to have this, okay. Let's say on a daily basis or a monthly basis. This is typically in the industry done on the monthly basis or a daily basis, okay. And in this case you can make use of the flowing material balance concept and reach this valuable data. You reach your oil in place associated to your well, and you reach your productivity index value or an estimate. And by the way, this value, the productivity index, may change with time, due to damage happened in your well, in your reservoir skin. You have a positive skin factor. So if you have at first zero skin at the start of production, you will have BI like 5, okay. And if you with time, if your skin developed and you have positive skin in your well, this value will drop to 3, for example, from 5 to 3, okay. So anyway, so the flowing material balance is a very interesting concept, and we will talk about it deep in the upcoming course. So I hope you get the message from all what I said. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer, for this great presentation. It was clear and informative. And now it's time to receive the attendees' questions, but we will take 3 minutes break to fill in this feedback form. And I've also sent a the link of the previous webinar to take a look at it. 3 minutes, please, if you have any question after filling the feedback form, write your question here in the chat box. Okay, it's time to receive the question. First question from Claude. He thanks you for this presentation. And his question is, have we in industry advanced RTA to a state where we can be very confident in its use in unconventional reservoir systems? Hello, Engineer Moment.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm just
Okay.
reading the question to know the question. Have we in industry advanced this one?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
To a state where we can be very confident its use. Okay, so actually, as I said, the RTA theory is developing from like we can say 70 years now, okay, or something. So we had advancement since 19, as you see, you can say 1940. I guess Vitkovich introduced the type curves in 1940. So, and then Blazingham came and introduced the type curves for this stuff. Of course, they developed the type curves for not for unconventional reservoirs. They developed the type curves for the conventional reservoirs. So if you mean Claude by unconventional reservoirs like the shale oil or the shale gas or the very tight gas reservoirs, these ones now in the literature there are research papers made to implement the RTA in the case of these reservoirs, but in the softwares they are not implemented maturely because they are not the solutions are not mature enough and agreed upon in the industry. Okay, so I guess if you go to like to one Petro and search it for it, RTA and unconventional servers, you will find papers. You will find many papers, I believe. So they are in the research, and I guess if you can apply one method of them in a research paper, you can be confident in your results. Yes. Okay.
Thank you for the second question. Can these type curves, Blazingham, Agarwal, be used for wells producing under transient conditions for long periods, like in shale gas reservoir with hydraulically fractured wells, or they are just used for wells producing under pseudo-steady state conditions?
Actually, the answer is no. So Blasingame, Agarwal, which all these type curves were developed mainly for the boundary for your wells, but after finish there that transient flow period, they are designed for the boundary dominated flow period. Okay, so you can't use them. Okay, in the case of transient conditions, as you said, in the shale gas reservoirs, which have many multi-stage hydraulic fractures, as we know. But as I said, there are other type curves that you can use in the transient condition. Okay, I didn't talk about them today, but there are some scientists developed type curves that you can use in the case of the transient flow conditions, like you said here in the shale gas tight reservoir, very tight reservoirs that we are hydraulic fracture them. So there are type curves for your case. I believe you can find them if you search for them. Yes.
Okay. How can one apply pressure derivative method for determining the reservoir boundary using type curves?
How can one apply the pressure derivative method to determine the reservoir boundary? I don't feel that I understand what you mean by the pressure derivative method. I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll take the next question, and please, Cable, please write or clarify your question again, please. The next question is, can I use wellhead pressure instead of bottom of flowing pressure, especially if there is no downhole gauge?
Sorry, what is the downhole pressure data? The downhole pressure data question, Adil, right? Or what?
Yes.
From Muhammad Nigm, right?
No,
No?
from Engineer Karim. He asked
Engineer Karim.
if he can use the wellhead pressure instead of bottom of flowing pressure,
Yeah,
especially if there is no downhole gauge.
I see it. Yes. Okay. So the answer is yes. You can use the wellhead pressure, but that in this case, you need to correct your wellhead pressure into your bottom hole flowing pressure before you can use it in the analysis, because the analysis is based on the BWF, not the wellhead pressure. So if you if you have a well producing naturally, okay, and you only have the wellhead pressure data and you don't have a downhole pressure gauge, okay, you need to correct your wellhead pressure data to the BWF before entering the software, or if the software handling this, you can do it. But anyway, before any analysis can be done, the BWF will be there. It is the one that will be used, not the wellhead pressure. Okay, so like in the IHS RTA software, you can input your wellhead pressure data, and also you enter the configuration of your completion. Let's say we are talking about a natural producer. Okay, the depth of your perforation, the row of your producing fluid, and this stuff, and the software is making this correction for you. Okay, before the analysis begin. Yes.
Okay. He followed up with another question. Also, what is the effect if I have a supported aquifer reservoir or reservoir underwater injection?
Okay. So this is a complication here for the RTA, because the theory of the RTA was based, as I said, was based on a producer which have no support, actually, no pressure support. So we don't, the theory is not based on aquifer. Okay. So if you have an aquifer, or you have an oil producer or a gas producer under support from aquifer or water injection, so the RTA will not work good for you. Okay. You still can make the analysis, but if you have a decline in your rate, of course, number, but if you don't have a decline in rate, and forget about the RTA. But if you have a decline in your rate, you can use the RTA in this case. But I recommend that you don't trust the results. It will not be accurate like the case if you don't have this support, pressure support. Okay, so this is the answer. If you don't have pressure support, be confident in your results, in your RTA result. If you do have pressure support, you can doubt a little in your result, but there are, as I said, there are like the material balance concept. Firstly, it was based on an oil producer only, or gas producer only. Recently, there are research papers that talk about the multi-phase flowing material balance. So if you have so this technique, for example, takes all the rates into consideration. So I will say you don't or forget about the RTA in the case of pressure support, but doubt the data a little. Okay.
Okay, Engineer Muhammad came with another question. The downhole pressure data from each well are required on monthly basis, or we can use the surface pressure data instead?
No, as I said, you can use the surface pressure data. The best condition, guys, is that we have downhole pressure gauges. But I know, and you know, that we don't have this condition in all our wells. So, for example, in my company, we don't have this at all. We have 100 producer online, and we don't have downhole pressure gauge, one downhole pressure gauge. Okay. So if you have a downhole pressure gauge, you can use it directly in the software. Okay. But if this to make an estimate for your bottom hole flowing pressure, but make sure that you correct for the depth difference between your pressure gauge and your perforation. If this depth difference is large, you should correct for it in the software, or make it on Excel before entering the software. If you have, as I said, if you have wellhead pressure data, you can use it in the case of a natural producer, natural oil producer, or natural flow oil producer or gas producer. But if your well is producing using any artificial lift method like gas lift, ECP, whatever, you can't use your surface pressure data or the wellhead pressure data, because you have a pump down there, or a source of pressure, or a source of energy given to your fluid using your artificial lift method. I hope this answers your question.
Okay, I think this is all for today. Here's a kind reminder of our next live course, rate transient analysis, coming on 28th January. Here's our early bird offer, 30% discount on the original price. So you will get the course for 175 instead of 250. And also here is a list of our upcoming live courses with dates. You can scan this QR code to enroll in the upcoming courses. Thank you all for attending today's webinar, and special thanks to Engineer Moment for presenting it. See you in our next webinars.
Thank you.